Thursday, September the 10th, 2020, back on the road. Today in Caddington, central Bedfordshire, which is wedged between Luton and Dunstable, a small downland patch of space between those two towns. And the immediate thing I notice is the jet noise, so could be a bit of an issue today. This walk is about 11.7 miles, one of the North Herts Ramblers ones again, and now about 12:30, so should be done round about 6ish. It's a perfect walking day really, a bit cloudy, but there is some sunny intervals. Temperature wise though, upper teens, so ideal. As I say, it's pretty much a downland walk today, so let's see what transpires. It's an interesting figure of 8 walk today, so it's almost like 2 walks joined together. I'm hoping they're approximately the same distance, i.e. I get back to this point, which is the meeting point of the figure of 8, to have lunch in this remembrance garden. This is the only church on the walk to my knowledge, from memory anyway. Another option over there I notice, which is right bang next to the walk, that yellow top marker indicating our onward journey, straight out the churchyard. So 200 yards later we're out into open countryside, and already in the distance I can hear the hum of the M1. So that's why I'm doing this walk today in an anti-clock direction, to avoid the worst of the M1 drone, which we'll get right up close to later on. So if it's not jets, it's traffic. But hey ho, variety is the spice of life. Thus far, large open fields, and as you can hear in the background, a jet pulling into Luton. Certainly bearing in mind the COVID situation, there's quite a lot of air traffic at the moment, which is probably why our rates are increasing again. Too much globalisation. We see it with nature and the effects of importing alien trees, etc. and flowers. Hence the likes of Himalayan balsam dating right back to rhododendron, and more recently the ash dieback situation. So globalisation, movement, international movement is not a good thing in my book. Clearly no issue underfoot today, but in the winter that could be a trudge. Now entering woodland, moving away from the M1, but not for long. This woodland is called bush wood on the 125 map. Classic Chiltern beechwood, mixed in with a few other bits and pieces. Passing a water tower over there on my right, which per the map is set around 185 metres, and today's high points are 686 feet with a low point of 428 feet. So not bad height, but as I say, we are on the tail end of the Chilterns here. Now back on a bridleway headed towards the M1, and as you can see, heavily used by motorbikes, so this could be a problem in the winter months. Looking through the fence on my left, looks like a new housing estate. Certainly wouldn't have been there when the GPX was done. There you get a bit of a view of the M1, very busy, considering almost back to normal busy. But for how much longer, I wonder, with the new COVID restrictions reducing group sizes down to 6 on Monday, which has ramifications for group walking, amongst many other things. Okay, we've now reached the noisy M1, as you can hear. There's an option to go straight ahead over it, but our journey here is left up these steps. So as you can see, there is signage about motorcycles, but flagrantly ignored. Cross over a little B road there. And although there's no footpath marker, you've got this kissing gate ahead of you, which gives the game away, I suppose. So this point is about halfway between Luton and Dunstable. It's adjoining line, I guess. Luton on my right. Very little between them now, to be honest. Dunstable over on my left. The path becomes more obvious after a short distance, and we're now on the classic Chiltern downland. As you can see, now entering a nature reserve, which I assume, possibly wrongly, is Blowsdown Nature Reserve. This walk is entitled Blowsdown, or Blowdown actually, they missed the S out. Dunstable on my right now. Just down in front of that factory there, you can see what is actually a busway between Luton and Dunstable, utilising an old railway line, I believe, similar to the one in Cambridge. Nothing goes on that apart from buses. One final view of the conurbation that is Luton, then Dunstable, before I turn the corner towards Blowdown. There you get a better impression of the former rail line. It's a guided busway now, but clearly origins are in railway. Dunstable no longer has a station. Probably do with one though. And I don't know what that carbuncle is. Well positioned bench there. Not much of an outlook, but good to know it's there for future walkers. This direction marker confirms what I said earlier, that it is Blowsdown SSI. It shows you the various local points. Warden Hill, for example, where we were a few weeks ago. Another wooden bench here. As we approach the higher point of today's walk, I notice very close to me now is the 212 spot mark. So that would equate to the figures I mentioned earlier. Not much of an outlook here either, really. Just leaving Dame Ellen's Wood on the map, which is a nice mixed woodland, Scots pine, oak, etc. And the onward journey is along this field edge, I do believe, towards that, I don't know what that is, some kind of mast. Mobile phone? I don't think so. Soon find out. Interesting, something's been eating these elders. There's hardly any left on the bush. So that kind of confirms what I was saying the other week about this being nature's larder. And here's the slow bush again. And I was reading an article in the Ramblers Walk magazine in the week. There's a good feature on foraging, and they were talking about what you can do with sloes, for example, jellies and jams, as well as the traditional gym. But clearly, because it's astringent, it needs to be well sweetened. They also mentioned, and I didn't know this, that you can actually eat the dreaded Himalayan balsam, of which we're unlikely to see any today, but I'll mention it anyway. You can put the leaves in salads, and the seeds are edible as well, but cup them well to stop them spreading. So if that was more widely known, we could perhaps get rid of Himalayan balsam by making use of its seeds and the flower. So there you go. Interesting. That is some tall telecommunications tower. I can hear the mewing of buzzards, I would assume, but I might be wrong. Could be kites around here. I've seen several today. Oh, I missed it. It was actually a kite mewing. There is a subtle difference. Where has he gone? Let's get him the other side of this hedge. There's one of them anyway. Yeah, as you can see, there's a pair of them. But that's what it was. More foraging here, hazelnut bush. There are a couple of nuts on board. Passing through a few grassy fields at the moment. It's turned out to be a cracking afternoon. Wonderful autumn day. Look at those haws. Loads of them. And that's something else I didn't know we could utilise. Apparently you can make ketchup out of the soft red bit. The little nut inside, the seed, is poisonous. But apparently the article I was reading says you can make a nice ketchup out of the red outer. I wonder what that tastes like. Chuck in a few spices and what have you. Walking alongside Cradle Spinney on the map, and this has been well looked after. Look, lots of shingle placed down here, no doubt by the Lee Valley Ripple group. Now I would say there really needs to be a finger post here, because the onward journey is not down that way, which is the main bridle way, but up this bank. I did query that when I looked at it. It looks well worn, so I checked the GPX, and lo and behold, you do come off here, but it's no finger post. Yet there is one at the top of the bank pointing the other way, along here. Very odd. Approaching Caddington for lunch. Passing the Tingdean Park's Collinswood Park mobile home site. Well, hardly that. Some of these go for 200, 250,000 now. Wonder what the site fees are here. A couple of grand a year. service charge. Nice little earner if you can own a own a chalet park. So this is where whoever created the GPX parked. I chose to park nearer the church. So there you have it. Just as the EU negotiations go on today, fingers crossed we come out with no deal. Okay, just coming up 3 o'clock and back at the Remembrance Garden around about 2 hours later, and indeed halfway point. It's around 5.8 miles, 6 miles in. So ideally position this for the figure of 8. Lunch is served. So coming up 3:30, and this week we do have a dedication. Need to remember H. Knott here, who passed away in 1960, and then more recently joined by his daughter, youngest daughter, 83-year-old Josie, who's reunited with her husband of 56 years. Good innings. So let's press on. Next to the Checkers is where my onward journey is, I do believe. Traditionally the pub was opposite the church, and you get that combination here. Now following some easily missed residential alleyways which go past a couple of schools, this one being the village first school. Load of porter cabins really. So there is the option of cutting across this playing field, which I didn't see in the corner there. I've walked all the way around this field, a couple of 100 yards anyway, but gets you to the same point. A rather COVID unfriendly narrow footpath here, but hopefully I won't encounter anybody on it. Just walking through the hamlet of Alley Green, and as you can hear, right in the flight path or under it, I encountered my first herd of cows today down at Piper's farm. Didn't film them because the farmer was present, and I had a chat with him about them. They were, as I suspected, beef as opposed to dairy. Very little dairy herd around now, and I was asking him about the aggressiveness that I've seen increase over the last decade, and he agreed with me, particularly when they got calves, which they have at the moment. Pretty damn sure it's the steroids. And another farming subject this week, poor old badgers who get blamed for TB unnecessarily are going to be culled in another 11 counties. There won't be any left soon, and then we'll create another problem. Man just doesn't learn. They're not passing on the TB. TB's more likely coming from the food that they're eating. The cattle, that is. Which is full of rubbish. In this field we've got horses. Good distance away from me. Lots of them though. Here is the way marker, but you don't get to see it until you've already got lost earlier, because the finger post earlier points you up the side of the field, so then you have to pass all the horses. Luckily they're too busy eating to worry about me. I noticed that finger post was marked with a decorum sticker, so we've now crossed out of Central Beds into Decorum. Mark Yates in Decorum, I recall, as is Hemel Hempstead, so give you some idea where we're at. Looks like the old water tower estate has been acquired, as we now walk along a busy B road. Now on a section of path following the Veer or the Vare Valley Walk, the Vare being the river that runs through St Albans, hence Verulanium, and that looks like Markyate over there. So at this juncture we come off the Veer Valley Walk next to this water trough and do a very sharp left as indicated by the finger post. There's our exit. Could really have simply walked across the top of the field. Odd. Final glimpse of Markyate. But the main thing I wanted to show was this lovely undulation in the landscape. Hope you get the full effect of that. Rolling hills. This is the lower height side of the walk. I'm on about the 160 metre contour line at the moment, so that would equate to the 428 foot lower height level today. Well, it's actually a bit more than that, but we are on the lower side of the day's walking heights today. Now on another pleasant tree-lined byway, although to be honest, probably got about 8 more weeks of this being tree-lined and only about 6 more weeks of decent daylight. Oh dear, what a winter we're in for, eh? My goodness, look at that lot. A tyre graveyard. Absolutely disgusting. As you can hear, back under the flight path again. So as I was saying, although we know more about COVID now, could well be because we're passing through the winter and the flu season. This winter could be a long, dark, dreary one. And if we can't get out to walk, God forbid. Really do need a decent test and track system. That's the answer. 100 billion, ludicrous money. Although, of course, if we cancelled HS2, we'd better pay for it. That'd be the answer. Really is unbelievable. Tyres everywhere. Just check the map, and this byway's called Half Moon Lane, rather romantically. Just as we've passed a full moon, actually, harvest moon. Quote Neil Young. What an interesting location for a fireworks factory. I wonder if that was all those bangs I heard in the background. Testing them. Certainly sounds like it now. There won't be any, probably anyway, firework displays this year. They'll have to be virtual. Very bizarre location. Still, no reason why they don't need to be there. See, this is bad news by the farmer. Completely slashed all the berries off this bush. Slows, I think. But you know, it's nature's larder. It should be ideally done January, February time. I don't know why farmers are getting so lazy. Not all of them, of course, but you know, this is absolutely decimation. all the berries that were on here compared to what aren't now. Just ridiculous. Prince Charles set's a good example. I do like his way of farming. The Duchy estate. Interesting programmes on TV he's recently done. Even taken out the blackberries. Dire. Just about to enter a small hamlet by the name of Pepperstock near Slip End. What a wonderful toadstool. I'm surprised that's still standing actually. Hasn't been kicked over. Brilliant. I notice most of this hedge decimation at this time of year next to cereal fields. So it must have something to do with the farmers being out in the field at this time, having cut the corn, they've got the equipment out and they can't be bothered to wait until the best time, which is January, February time, when all the berries are long since disappeared. So it's got something to do with that, I reckon. As I say, it's not nature friendly. It's all about the farmer having the equipment at hand and doing it when it suits him, rather than the wildlife. That's my guess anyway. If anyone can tell me different, I'm all ears. And talking of wildlife, we've heard very little in the way of bird song today. The only birds I've heard are the kites and the odd wren or other bird where I've disturbed them, like robins, but otherwise very little else. I've seen a swallow, they're still here, but aside from that, no, very little. So at this juncture, there being the football stroke cricket field I could have crossed earlier but didn't, this is now duplication, passing all the schools etc. back to Caddington. So I won't be doing much more filming, I need to wind up at the end. So back at All Saints Church, this is actually, never mentioned the name earlier, 11.8 miles, 4 hours 18 later. Not sure if that pace is right, sounds a bit quick. Anyway, that's what I've got on the old GPX recorder. So that was a very nice walk, contrasting walk. Two halves to it, a figure of 8. And the first half being downland mainly, second half being lots of tree-lined bridleways. So reflecting the land features really. So yeah, another good outing from the North Herts Ramblers. Could be in the winter as usual, as I say, bit of a trudge in places, and it's a bit too close for the urban centres for me, but nevertheless a good day's walking. So I don't know the number of that walk off the top of my head, but is that clock accurate? No, it isn't. Interesting dial though. Not sure what time it's meant to be saying. 10 to 4? Certainly not that. It's about 5:45 now. Anyway, as I say, another good day's walking from the North Herts Ramblers. Till the next time.